want a garden so I can grow, and you can only go so far on your own.
So, welcome to the Permaculture Magazine podcast. I'm delighted today to be with Glennie Kindred. Glennie has written now 13 books, and this book, Between the Worlds, which is fresh and hot off the press and in my hands, is her most recent. And I'm celebrating this with her, but I am also celebrating the reprint of one of her most earliest books that she first wrote, an edition in 2001, and we were really lucky to pick up in 2014 and turn it into Sacred Earth Celebrations. So I kind of have two ends of creativity here, which is just a gorgeous juxtaposition, because they've both been printed this month, just proving how perennial and wonderful the work that you do is. It's as relevant today as it was over 20 years ago. I mean, amazing.
It's one of those, yeah, it has been a phenomena. It's not something I expected. I began the little handwritten one even before Sacred Celebrations, and it just took off, and I've sold 25,000 copies of that little one book alone. It's just took off, and I only did it as a photocopy, which I took to festivals. I had
It's
no computer.
amazing.
Yeah,
And
I hand wrote it. It
and
was just. It was a vehicle for my artwork as much as anything, and for me to solidify where I'd got to with this amazing journey with the earth. That's my whole thing, has been a journey with the earth, which began with my drawing trees, and then receiving all this subliminal stuff off the trees, and realizing there was more going on in life than I'd previously realized. And nature was the key. So yeah, I've written 13 books, all weaving around this journey with nature and nature connection and relationship. It's all about relationship.
so
It's
the
not just
first
looking.
book that you mentioned was The Earth Cycles of Celebration, which is a little
Yeah, the
handwritten yellow book.
yellow
That was the
one.
book that I found and completely awoke me to the idea. I knew about Celtic festivals and I knew about rituals, but it was the perspective of just deeply celebrating and connecting with the earth on our land in a contemporary context, not looking back into some past practice or some fantasy practice or something that wasn't of this land, but
Yes,
from another culture. And
yes,
and what I gleaned from it was this wonderful sense that we can create our own ceremonies and that we're not waiting for someone else to tell us what to do. And I think that's
right.
one of your strongest and really unique perspectives, is that you empower people to go out and make their connections and do things for themselves.
Yeah, and connect with the earth. That was the whole breakthrough I had, was the underlying energy of the earth for each festival. What's the earth teaching us? What's the earth telling me? And me as part of the earth, how is that resonating with me? And that's been the whole journey, really. If you broke it down, you could say that was it, really.
Wonderful. And so I want to ask you, what transforms for you when we do ceremony? You know, what happens when we sit in ceremony with our in connection with the earth?
Well, we shift between the worlds. And that's why I've written this book, because I've talked about that in all of the books, but it's been cloaked in other subjects. So I really had to just get that shift, the shift in consciousness. We shift into unity. We shift into belonging.
And that's a very profound experience, isn't it? When you sit on your own.
Yeah, on your own, or with other people, or you
with other
interweave
people.
with other people. And there's this shift that comes over you, and especially if you do ceremony outside, you know, because you're then interacting with all of that shift in nature around you. Beautiful. I'm addicted to it. I love it.
It's been my practice for many years to do that, either with people, other people, or on my own.
Yeah.
And I find it deeply healing.
Yeah. Particularly with trees, you know, with trees near you, or in sacred places that have resonance, that they kind of shift you, even if you don't do a ceremony there, if you just stand and be still. So I think the thing about ceremony is that we take a moment to be still, and we put our roots down into the earth, and we stand in the moment. We're trying our best at the beginning of a ceremony where we're creating sacred space to focus ourselves into a place of stillness and this moment, not thinking of all the other things we've got to do, or that we will be doing, or other things that's going on in our minds. We just find that still point, and that's what Between the Worlds is about as well. It's about finding that stillness, slowing the pace, and that's what ceremony gives us. We just take a bit of time out of time to be still and stand in our truth, and be honest in our truth. Beautiful.
And what happens when we do this with other people? Can you talk a little bit about, you know, we know that we can connect and experience that deeply still and healing place on our own, but what happens in the dynamic with other people?
I think it depends on who the other people are, and whether or not you do ceremony where everybody is equal. I think I find if it's led, somebody's taking the lead, I find that difficult. I think everybody should be free to participate in whatever way that comes up for them. And then I think if you are in a group of people where everybody is, all are leaders, all are able to share what they are feeling and what they are connecting to, then I think something truly magical happens. I think you just expand between the worlds, and you enter a dynamic place where things can come through you. It's all spontaneous. It's all in the moment. It's not contrived. And you know, so it depends on who's helping to facilitate that ceremonial place, if you're doing it with other people. So it is a true connection to the moment, and to the earth, and to the elements, and it's not contrived.
So there's this very subtle difference between
I think there is.
facilitation and leadership, in the
Yeah,
sense of having someone who's controlling the process.
yeah.
I get the
For
feeling
me,
that
for me,
you want everyone to, although you're often in the position of a facilitator, and I've seen you facilitating ceremony in all sorts of different places, there's something about you having enough stillness to almost step aside to allow other people to thrive and engage in the process.
or to create that, to create that stillness as you create sacred space. I feel that that's you know, you find that stillness and it's in the moment. And yeah, it's giving everybody the space.
Mm.
Yeah, even if I'm facilitating, I'm giving everybody the space. I think I've come more and more and more to that, because then everybody has their own unique experience. And yeah, from the stillness, then you shift into being. You become part of the unity, not separate. And that again is what Between the Worlds is about, is not separate. We're not separate from each other, we're not separate from the earth, we're not separate from anything. We are interconnected always. So through the words we say, even through our thoughts, everything creates connection. And that's what you want people to be able to feel, that and experience that.
So go back in time a little bit for me and tell me a little bit about your encounters or connections with this liminal space, and where it's happened and how it's happened. Can we talk a little bit about that? Because I've personally experienced that with you as well in our walking on the land, to go to places of, you know, special sacredness and power. But it'd be lovely to hear from you, just, you know, an example of how you've connected, so that someone else could, listening to this, could say, oh, I could do that if I went to this place. Because we all have our own power places on our own, in our land, in, you know, locally to us. We don't have to go to Machu Picchu or even Stonehenge or Avebury.
No, or even a stone circle. You know, I have places just, you know, across the fields. It's usually with trees for me. It's always been with trees for me. Big old trees, you know, they spin me between the worlds. They spin me out of myself. They connect me to something bigger. And that began when way back in the 90s, I wanted to learn how to draw. I couldn't draw. I felt that I was artistic and I was an artist, but I'd gone down another route and hadn't actually learnt how to draw. And I sat with trees as a way of learning how to draw. And then what I noticed was each different tree species I sat with made me feel differently. And of course, I think it's not just, I think it's the stillness when you're drawing. And the stillness, if you're, you know, if you're doing craft work or you're doing anything kind of repetitive or absorbing, gardening is a great way to, you know, I love gardening and I know you do too. And it's, you kind of spin out of yourself. You daydream, which is, you know, akin to shamanic journeying in a way, not as conscious, but it's very good for us. So we, you know, we all these things. I really love all the things that just spin me into more than my surface reality. And so I think it's easy. I think you just have to do those things that help you to be still and anchor yourself. So it's always out in nature. But yeah, if I'm working on embroidery or drawing, I'm also kind of gone. Trance music, spacey music, I'm a big fan of for that same reason. I like the place, and I think it's part of the balance. It's because we're over dependent. Our society, um, uh, uh, our culture is over dependent on surface reality, over dependence on logic, on science, on achieving, yeah, on it's just surface reality, and we have to find a balance. And so I think I've been, for all those years, ever since those early experiences with trees, been trying to bring that balance into my everyday life. And I think it's all down to conscious choice, and we have choice. We're incredibly lucky. We do have choice, and we can change our thinking. We can change the patterning that we have of out there, busy, 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 achieve, buy. We can change all of that patterning and just balance that with a deeper connection to nature, to our intuition, to our instincts. All these things have kind of been, they've been ridiculed a bit and, dissed and made to feel as if they're not important at all. Your imagination, not important. And we've just got to bring them back into balance to be whole human beings. And when we bring them back into balance, we're in a different place. We're in a place of kindness and love and care, because we're more sensitive. So yeah, I think that's what it is. It's resensitizing ourselves so that we find our way back into balance. And, a lot of people are doing it. I think more and more people are recognizing that they're feeling cut off and separate. And that's really, if they take the time to just breathe and sit and stare, actually, they like that place and it's part of them. And they want a bit more of it.
And the first part of the book is about shifting consciousness. It's all about how we can do this. And, it's not a great weighty philosophical tome. You've kept it very, very simple so that we can
my books
all
are simple.
do it. We can all do it. It's not, you don't have to be a qualified Zen master or a Reiki healer, which is it's our, in a way, it's our sort of
our birthright.
It's our birthright and part of our legacy as well that we pass. We're not receiving only. It's because you write a lot about reciprocity as well.
Yes. Well, because that's the balance. As we give, so we receive. And I see that all the time, and breaking the lie of competition, in being in competition with each other. But if we're generous with each other, then generosity comes back, and we're part of the flow of reciprocity. I can't even say it. Reciprocity. We're part of that flow, and everything is flowing. Competition is like, it's based on fear. Fear closes energy. It blocks energy. Whereas when we're loving, kind, generous, but opens the energy, and the energy flows back to us. What we give is what we get.
This is
We're not.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the essence, because the second part of the book is all about the gifts.
The
It's
gifts.
about, the
So
gift
I call them the gifts, because the gifts are the gifts we have, and they're very simple gifts. They're the gift of, well, let's start with the first gift, new beginnings. New beginnings is a very simple, we can always reset our thinking. We can always start again. We can, if you've, wherever we are at ever point in the day, in our lives, we can make new beginnings. So that's a gift. The gift of reverence, that's another one.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So when we slip into that reverential state with our reverence for the earth, then we're changed, we're uplifted, we're connecting, we're in relationship. It's a simple thing. So yeah, each gift, I say a bit about what the gift is on one side of the page, and then I move on to how I've experienced that gift. So before I start the gifts, I say I share my journey, so to give inspiration to yours. I'm not kind of like, showing off, this is what I'm doing. I just want to share. This has been a long journey for me, this finding our way to unity consciousness. It's been a 20-year journey where I've gone, I know I'm not separate from the earth, but I constantly feel that separation. I'm constantly, that's my conditioning. How do I break the conditioning of my culture, of my history? Because it all goes back quite a long way. It goes back to, the witch burning and the suppression of women, when all those kind of gifts, the gift of, intuition and having this intuitive sense of knowing, this ancient knowing, was suppressed, and people feared it, and people feared that if they spoke about it, they'd be punished. So we have a long history of this suppression of these very simple gifts. So yeah, the gift of trust, which, its opposite is fear. So working on how to trusting my relationship with the earth, trusting my intuitive thinking and my instincts, they're important to have them. And we actually can't trust what we see on screen anymore.
No.
We can't trust it with the AI putting new faces on people and all the rest of it. We can't trust it. We have to trust ourselves. Yeah. So yeah, another gift, the gift of stillness, as I was talking about earlier. We're rushing around, we're encouraged to rush and achieve. And yet, if we just stop, we gift ourselves some still time out in nature, it changes us and it comes over us it just does. And it's such a simple thing to do. It's resetting our initial conditions. It's resetting ourselves to be in a more receptive mode.
And there's a sense at the end of the book about us being in this transition from the old, what I would call probably left brain, symbolically, whether it's true or not in neuroscience, I'll leave it at that. But from this old intellectual doubting, materialistic reality into this more integrated interbeing of consciousness, and
Yes.
the sense that we are collectively stepping into this new transitional place.
Yes. And I can feel that collective shift. I don't know if you can, but I can feel that collective shift. You know, more and more people are making this journey. And so, yeah, that's why I felt very strongly I had to get this little book out just to gather what I'd been doing. And I've had the absolute, what's the word? The gift of being able to explore these things because of the books, and the workshops and the talks have just given me enough of an income that I've had that freedom to explore it for the last 20 years. So I felt that I wanted to get down all of the things that have helped me find that place. And it's a place of joy. It's a place of great happiness. It's a bursting out of our confines that society has kind of boxed us into. That we don't have to be there. We can shift.
And
The joy through very simple shifting our consciousness from out of the separation mentality where culture and history has put us over the last few hundred years, and it is only a few hundred years. And if you think of it in context like that, we can break that conditioning very easily. And the more of us do it, the more we influence each other, the more people see, the more peaceful, the more joyful, the more cooperative, welcoming place that this gives you. And the more people can see that in you, then the more you influence other people to make that journey and make that shift in consciousness into a more united field, we know we're interconnected with all life on earth. We know it in our hearts, but we are conditioned into this separation. So we have to break that conditioning of separation. And yeah, like I say, it takes time and you have to work at it, but they are very simple things that help you to break that conditioning and find a new sense of interconnection and unity with life. And so I end the book on 3 pages of "we choose," because it's down to our conscious choices. We can choose where we put ourselves, what we do with ourselves, what we do with our thoughts. Our thoughts, everything has resonance, so everything creates connection. So if we're working with trust and we're working with kindness and generosity and sharing, if we're working with those things, then that's the flow that we're living in, and we will help to change the world. We will change the world.
And so this is a bit of a difficult question, but I must ask it.
Okay. Go on then.
So we know that critical mass is not 50%. So we don't need 50% of the people in the world to embrace unity consciousness and do this work. We have, we know that it's much, much less. I can't give an exact sort of research science number before things begin to topple and fall.
Yes.
But we know that it's significantly less than even 20%, much less. So if we develop, and maybe you'll say we have, but if we develop critical mass, how do you envision this other world that's possible?
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about cooperation, kindness, collaboration, flow. But how does that manifest in the world in tangible sense? You know, what does your other world that's possible look like?
Thank you for that. It's just, well, I can only speak from how my world looks like as I am shifting. And my world as I am shifting, is full of good people I can trust. It's full of nature and nature connection, and more a sense of communication between myself and the plants and the trees, and you know, that sense of I just need to be able to listen to you, and you are as important as I am, and you've been here longer than I have. So, what is your wisdom? Not what is mine, self-imposed. I think people will be happier and more open with each other. I think it just feels, yeah, more open and content. Not so, yeah, not so fearful, certainly.
And fear
I,
is the big number,
it,
isn't it? That
it
when
is.
we contract immediately when we're fearful.
Yes, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
we don't have the confidence to be in community and plant woodlands and do positive, life-changing things in our local community.
Yes, yes, yes. And I say somewhere in the book something about, you know, rewilding the earth, but first we have to rewild ourselves. And you know, when you start to rewild yourself, you can't bear it that the earth is so devoid of you know, complex ecosystems that have, you know, diminished. You can't bear it, and you have to start rebuilding that complexity and being part of the solutions to rebuild it, to bring it back. And the earth is so brilliant at regeneration that is where, you know, so much, it is amazing how fast the earth is regenerating. And even if you just leave land without chemicals and without, you know, even just scrubland, the trees, the birch moves in, the trees move in, the biodiversity just arrives, and that is just so inspiring. You know, we don't have to do anything. We just have to stop doing the things that are damaging the earth. But we want to. So that's what the future looks like. It looks like lots of people who want to make things better again, and a kinder world. And a more inclusive world. A world without fear, as you say.
Lovely.
Yeah. Bless you.
So thank you so much for talking to me this morning, Glennie. It's been very uplifting on this beautiful day. I would recommend that anyone interested here in wishing to find out more about Glennie's work, go to glenniekindred.co.uk, and we'll put that link in the notes below. And if you want to explore the books that we've published by Glennie, including Sacred Earth Celebrations, you'll find them at the shop on permaculture.co.uk and on your website as well. So head on down to Glennie Kindred or to us. And again, I'll put some notes in below here. But thank you very much. And I think the essence is, let's encourage people to connect.
Yes.
and
Yes.
explore the liminal and the joy of expansion.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Thank you, darling.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You can teach me all